UKUnMute podcast. I'm your host today, Natasha Latcham, and with me, my fellow co-host Raquel McKee.
Hi.
And we have three lovely young ladies here with us today, and they are the main focus of today's podcast because we're talking about young women in Northern Ireland who are doing amazing things to empower not only themselves, but others through the arts. And we have here Macy. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Esther.
Yep.
And Anesu. Okay, and we're just going to jump right into it. I'm just going to ask the ladies a bit about themselves, their background, and what their particular art form is. So we'll start with you.
Okay, so I am a fashion and portrait photographer, and I'm 20 years old. I started photography about 3 years ago. Yeah, about 3 years ago. And yeah, I absolutely love it.
Brilliant. And yourself, Esther?
My original background is actually in fashion and textiles. I went to university and studied that, and then I did a master's in retail management, but now I'm actually going into filmmaking and video production.
Yay!
That's her area. So
One of the areas. And Anesu?
Yeah, I'm a poet, so I'm all about the written word.
Yes!
Yeah, all about the written word and writing about sort of my experience growing up in Northern Ireland. And people don't think I'm from Northern Ireland. It's the whole thing of immigrant experiences and things like that. So yeah, that's me.
Excellent. And what sort of, I'll start with you, Macy. What sort of entrance into making your art public in Northern Ireland did you get? Like, how did you start outside of like school and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I had left school when I was about 17, and I had a camera from doing moving image and stuff. So kind of just started taking photos of friends, taking photos of family, friends of friends, and I kind of like spread out from there.
Yes.
And then I met people like Esther.
Brilliant.
And like kind of just started working with the likes of you, different people that were in fashion. And yeah, the main platform was Instagram. Like there is Facebook, but there wasn't enough reach on that. So Instagram kind of kicked that off.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And yourself, Esther?
For me, I had started a streetwear brand originally in my kind of internship year of university, and then started kind of like a fashion collective after I graduated university, and we threw a lot of like fashion events. So I was able to kind of, put our clothing in the runways. I mean, that makes this sound really elaborate, but it was just like fashion events thrown together by local designers as well.
Excellent.
And then from then, that kind of died down, and I went into creating a space, which was a completely separate brand, and we wanted to throw independent hip hop nights and also have loads of panel discussions where we can kind of talk about like the creative journey, and then now that's led into creating stories for brands as well, so it's kind of turning more into a business.
Okay. And hip hop and fashion goes together. That's a very interesting marriage there as well. And yourself, Anesu, what was your foray into the public with your poetry?
Yeah, so I've been always that kind of kid that like wrote things down, like always kept diaries and like did doodling things on pages. And then I was involved with the Northern Ireland Youth Forum, still am. And I was planning Black History Month, and the director sat me down and was just like, okay, well, what do you like to do? Like, what do you want to do to make it personal? And I was like, I don't know, I write, I guess. And he's like, okay, write me a poem. And then I'm like, okay. So I ended up writing a poem for that, and that was like the first one I had published. And then from that, it was just going to open mics and, writing things down and just trying to get poems out there, and it's just going from there, yeah.
Have you been finding that people are hungry or thirsty for what you've got? We'll start with you, Anesu.
I'd say so. There's a very sort of close-knit poetry community in Northern Ireland.
There certainly is.
So once you know the right people, it's really, there's so many events that you can go to, and there's so many different types of things. Like I've been to Queen's, and I've been to sort of historical places in Northern Ireland, and it's really about just like networking with people. Once you know the right people, it's really about just sharing what you have with them, and then they share things with you, and you learn secrets, and you learn all these wonderful tools and things. People are really willing to give advice, and people are really willing to hear what you have to say when it comes to arts and when it comes to poems and things like that.
And what about you, ladies?
Definitely. I think a lot of the creative events that we've had, especially the panel discussions, I feel like a lot of people get stuff out of it because I ask really vulnerable questions about, what is the creative process? How do you, what do you struggle with? Do you have imposter syndrome? Are you confident?
Yes.
And it's something that we all relate to. And so I feel like that's definitely my gift of speaking to people and kind of getting information out of them that they may not necessarily think about.
You're not a journalist?
Maybe there's a bit of that in there.
You might have to tap into that.
yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting things that we can do, and I think people do receive it quite well.
And have you found the same?
Yeah, I think there's definitely would you say a growing demand in like photography, fashion, like Belfast is becoming more of that. I still think we've got a long way to go, but I think, you know, if the young ones that are getting involved in it now keep that going, then there definitely is a lot more people interested in wanting to start, I don't know, like designing their own clothes, and they want those photographs. So there's always going to be those spaces for photographers to kind of wiggle their way into, and it's the same with like poets and stuff. Like there's that community there, and it is about keeping it kind of not close knit, but still supporting each other. So
Yes. Being as both Raquel and I, you know, have like an artsy background, and I do write poetry as well, but I'm more shy to share my poetry. She's been trying to get me on my shelf for like 5 years. It hasn't happened.
I'll keep working it.
But what are some of the challenges that you are currently facing in your particular art form? Maybe not just from being young doing it, but maybe just trying to show the rest of Northern Ireland the importance of the arts, because we know arts always get, if there's a chance for like funding to get cut, sometimes the arts are always one of the first things to get cut. So what are some of the challenges you've found with yourselves and some of the projects that you're trying to get out there? I'll start with you.
Well, it might take me a minute to think.
Like funding, is funding an issue, or is it getting venues, or is it you know, maybe collaborating with people who could help you, or getting a foot in the door, anything like that?
Yeah, I think like that would be the main thing. It's kind of getting your foot in the door with the right people. You know, like here it is great, you know, getting to work with people and getting to collaborate. Like I love that, but I don't think that that's for the long run here. I don't think that's for the long term. So I think it'll take a lot of work, and it's like any industry, you have to work to the point where you'll be successful, you'll be paid, you know.
Keep grinding.
You have to keep grinding. So I mean,
Okay, that's mostly okay. And you, Anesu, any challenges that you're like facing?
Yeah, I think Esther mentioned imposter syndrome, and I think that's one of the biggest ones. Is even if you manage to get in the door, then you're like, oh, should I be here? Am I good enough to be here? Like, is my work? You're constantly scrutinizing yourself, and the arts is one of those things that because it's so undervalued, you don't have that outside source telling you what you're doing is great. What, you know, you deserve to be here. You really have to work with that in yourself, and it's that constant need. Like you write a new poem, and it's sitting there, you're like, oh, that's the best thing I've ever written in my entire life. And then you come back to the next day and you're like, this is horrible. It's horrible.
Take that line out, I'll take this line out.
And you're like, should I just perform it in front of someone? And then you're like, oh no, but what if someone says something? And what if I'm lying to myself and I've never been a poet? You know, it's that type of thing that you're constantly having to build yourself up and then expose yourself to people. Art is very vulnerable. So you really have to be
subjective.
confident. So you really have to step into it and say, you know what, I'm worthy to do this.
That's right. And Esther, any particular challenges?
I think you're probably right to touch on funding, and I think as well maybe people lack a lot of structure in putting their projects out properly in terms of incorporating business, and maybe it's a lack of information that's already out there. You know, maybe that could help people develop themselves further, because I think within the creative industry here sometimes I feel you can go and get so far, and it's like, how do we push further so that you can be successful in how, and maybe the industries aren't developed fully. So I think that's like a really positive thing in that way in Northern Ireland, because you can create your own opportunities, but there's a lack of opportunities sometimes if you don't really know where to go.
I kind of want to tease out from you this sense of Northern Ireland being an island, you know, on an island, and not quite connected to the mainland, and whether or not you're feeling that in your art. You know, do you feel as though what you're doing here has broken in the UK, or do you feel there's still a long way to go with that? Do you feel that it is perfectly possible to start from here and say, hit the US, Australia, etc.? What are your thoughts on that? Esther, can I start with you?
Yeah. I think for me, I'm still in a phase of figuring out what it is I want to do properly. You know, like I'm definitely an artist first, and I love communicating through words and through events and through film and through textiles as well. And I think I'm just in the space of just cultivating my skills properly, and I feel like I'm just kind of starting out and trying to build that sustainably. So I don't know whether Northern Ireland will be the place for me long term. It might be here just to incubate my ideas and to build myself, and then my long goal is to go back to Africa and set up camp there,
Lovely.
and go different places, but I'm not too sure yet
Mhm.
with Northern Ireland, if you know what I mean.
Macy?
Yeah, I mean, for fashion photography, like that's what I mainly want to be in. I feel like I'm doing more portraits at the moment, but you know, for fashion, I kind of do see Northern Ireland and it's London. It's not even like
Yes.
the rest. It's
Not
literally
even.
just London,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
I know that might not be the mindset that some people here want to have, but like that's the reality of it.
Yes.
So like that's what I see is just here in London, and that's the goal. And then from there, I'd love to like go to Paris, go to like all these fashion kind of hot points of like
Mhm.
where fashion is.
Fashion capitals.
But right now it just like again it's like that imposter syndrome. Like it really kicks in. You think I'm not gonna make it. Like I'm not good enough. I'm like you just doubt everything.
There's so many other people out there doing this wonderful stuff. Am I gonna?
Like you completely doubt your work, and you look at it and you're like, oh, I love this piece, and then you'll come back to it the next day, like you were saying, Anesu, and then you go, that's so bad.
But then
So-
sometimes you might see somebody else's work and be like, well, surely I can make it. Right?
Yeah,
There's that
yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And Anesu?
Yeah, I think especially when you're coming from at the angle of being black as well in
Mhm.
Northern Ireland, there's just such a lack of representation.
Yeah.
Like even when it comes to black, it's either London, like you said,
Mhm.
or America,
Yeah.
and those are such different environments than
Mhm.
Northern Ireland and
Yeah.
what Northern Ireland's climate is. And I
Mhm.
think the market in Northern Ireland is still very focused on very Northern Irish historical specific
Yeah.
things.
Yes.
So when it comes, you're trying to be new and you're trying to come out and you're trying to say,
Mhm.
hey,
We're
yes,
here.
Yeah.
we're here, woman,
Yeah.
we do something
Yes.
slightly different.
Yes.
Can we change the narrative a wee bit? And it's
Yeah.
just so hard to bring that. And you'd like, it's not even worth it. I'll just go somewhere else. It's
Mhm.
that always having an outside market or an outside influence. It's very, very hard to find
Mhm.
influences and inspiration in Northern Ireland,
Yeah.
specific to you.
And speaking of being a black person and an arts person in Northern Ireland, how has your background influenced your work or how you work, if it has at all? I'll start with you.
I'll start off by saying like I come from a town where I think I actually pushed aside like who I was, and I didn't think of that as really important, because when you're like treated so badly and you're bullied for it, you kind of like push that to the back of your mind.
Mhm.
So therefore that wasn't like the forefront of what I was trying to create. And I really regret that, but I'm glad that I've kind of nipped it in the bud now and wanted to create work that can say something and means more to me and to people that are looking at it. But I definitely think, I mean, as black women, as black people, you have to work harder anyway.
Mhm.
So, I don't think, and this might sound harsh, but that here there isn't the climate for us to put that into our work, for us to insert being black. People just go, what?
Mhm.
What?
Or that's not for us.
That's
or-
not for us.
Yeah.
Why are you not talking about Northern Irish history? It's like,
Mhm.
I'm
Yes.
talking about us, I'm talking about me, like,
Yeah.
and it's almost like you kind of feel a bit ashamed to do that,
Mhm.
and you shouldn't.
Yes.
So it can be
It
a bit of
closes your
a,
lens, like
yeah.
Okay. Are you finding the same experience, Esther?
Definitely, I think. So my background's quite interesting because I'm half Irish, half Ugandan, but grew up in Egypt for 6 years and then moved
Okay,
to
a little
Dublin.
bit of mix.
That's a nice mix. A bit of spice.
Yeah, and then lived in Dublin for a year and then came back for my I-level. This was all before I was 17. And so it was really interesting coming from Dublin even to here, because Dublin's so multicultural, and then coming to Northern Ireland, like it really culture shocked me so hard, and it took me such a long time to kind of adjust. I'd say only in the last 3 years I've kind of probably settled for the first time and kind of been like, okay, this is my space. And it's interesting because it goes into the name of the brand that I have, creating this space, and it definitely came from me wanting to find a space within myself within Northern Ireland, because like you're saying, I just feel like people don't have the language to understand multiculturalism,
Yes.
black people in general, and there's not a lot of tolerance or patience, or they're referring it to an American experience or a British experience, but we're so complex, it's hard just to put everything down and to be like, oh, we're all black people, but
Yes.
we're all individuals as well. And I think it's a constant, that's always been something that's in my events, that's in my filmmaking, that I'm always talking about representation and how important it is. But also it's a daily thing of trying to figure that out and navigate it without trying to dilute myself, because trying to take up space is really difficult.
Yes.
Because Do you guys find that people stare a lot?
Yeah. Yeah. They take up space anyway.
Yeah.
Anesu, did you answer that question?
No, she
I don't
hasn't
know.
yet.
It's just for me, I think that my blackness is in everything that I write and everything that I do, just because that's, if I'm writing from myself, so it's inevitable that it's going to be. And I grew up in like the countryside, very small primary school, only black kid in the school. So it was that experience where I didn't even pay attention to my blackness when I was a child. I was just like, oh yeah, I'm just all my friends. And then I slowly started to notice things, started to notice small differences in food, and like I'd be celebrating Africa Week and my friends would be like, what's that? And I'm just, it's the holiday. And then hair became a thing, and it's just all these small things that like in daily life people wouldn't even think about, but when you're coming at it from a minority perspective in a country like this, you do notice it, and it becomes a very big deal. So of course that gets reflected in art.
I wish we could spend a lot more time on this conversation, but one very important question that we must ask you before we wrap up is, how do you feel that your art is empowering young people here in Northern Ireland or beyond? And who?
I think it's just to be that face again, to be that representation, just to say, look, if I can do it, you can do it. I think that's so important, and it's so underestimated, the importance of just seeing yourself. And if someone can read a word or read a line and be like, yeah, that's my experience, yeah, that's my life, like I can see myself in that, and then can go on and maybe say, okay, maybe writing's not my thing, but if I can go and take a photograph, or if I can go and document what people are saying, it's empowering, because then you're creating a space for yourself and you're creating a history for yourself. And even if you're growing up in 20 years and you go, oh, that was awful, but at least you know who you were at that time and you documented who you were at that time. And I think that's so important when it comes to making a place for yourself in the world.
Excellent.
What was the question?
How do you feel that your art is empowering young people, both here and beyond?
I feel like I'm very passionate about telling the truth. And within the panel discussions, and even within the films or the stuff that I want to make, I'm always trying to, similar to what you're saying, representation. And I think if you can see people doing stuff, then it can inspire the younger generation to be like, especially within the film industry, there's even in Northern Ireland, there's very few people of colour. So like if I'm directing or if I'm, filming myself, it's like, that's a stance that I want to take and educate people as well, I guess.
Okay, and Macy?
I think, if I can have some young people look at my photos and like look at them and go, oh, so if she can do it, I can do it.
That's right.
Like that means so much, because I don't feel like I had that when I was younger. So kind of like creating these pieces of work that don't really say words, it's not like I type things out, or I'm not good at poetry, I'm not good at speaking, but like if I can...
You speak through your images. You speak through your
If I can speak through images, and
Yes.
people can look at it and go, wow, like, okay, I can do something creative and get somewhere with it, then I think that's quite empowering.
Excellent. And in wrapping up, for the benefit of those who are listening to us on our podcast via Spotify or Apple Podcasts, etc., where can people find you or your work on social media? I know young people love your social media handles, so let's give your handles quickly on where people can find you.
Okay, so I'm on Instagram at Macy Stewart Photo, MacyStewart Photo.
I'm at Creating Space, CREAT. Creating Space on Instagram. You'll find it.
Yes. And Anesu?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, it's just Anesu Mtowa, so it's ANESUMTOWA.
And for those watching us on YouTube, I'll put all their information down below in the description box. You can find them there. And in closing, I want to thank the ladies so very much for sharing their art and their personalities and all their aspirations with us. And we wish you guys all the best in the future. And we'll be purchasing some of your work and looking forward to seeing some of your work.
Thank you.
Talking about work, would you like to drop a rhyme or two?
Well, in honour of everyone at the table,
Yes.
this poem is called Black Girl Magic. Pocket of starlight, glowing brighter than full moon, you, little black girl, are magic. Like hidden treasure, you are the gold dust beneath the coal. They tried to hide you, tried to make you something lost, but you cannot be lost. You are magic. Like a handful of healing stones, you can mend a broken heart with just your words. The smoothness of you melts over sorrows like honey. They try to bitter you, but you cannot lose your taste. You are magic. Like a bird's first whistle, you are the melody behind the song. The beauty of you needs no mirror to be seen. They try to bury you under a mountain of glimmering white pearls, but you, like a lighthouse, demand to be seen. You are magic. Don't believe what they tell you about witches. Don't let them switch off your magic. When they break down your door, do not cry. Instead, thank them for breaking the barrier. When they drag you by your ankles, do not kick. Instead, thank them for showing you the stars. When they burn you at the stake, do not scream. Instead, thank them for lighting a spark in someone else's heart, but don't let them take your heart, little black girl, because it is magic. The melody of you, the smoothness of you, the beauty of you, it is all magic. It is your magic. It is black girl magic.
Hi everyone, welcome back to our podcast. I hope you enjoyed the first segment, and we're continuing today's discussion on empowerment, and we're going to focus a bit on the music scene right now. We've got a special guest with us today. We've got two guests in fact, and with me, my co-host Angela.
Hi.
And I'm Yolande, and with us today we have Dena Anuksa, and we have got FaithChild. We're going to get to know these two celebrities a bit more in a while, but I have to say, you're in for a treat. So we're going to jump right into it, and I'm going to start the ball rolling with Dena and just go right at it, Dena. I want to just ask you, and I'm sure our audience want to know, when did your musical journey begin, or how did it begin? What was the impetus behind you getting into music?
I was kind of a nerd in school, so I was really into writing, and I wrote a lot of short stories and just sat in my room and wrote a lot of poetry, and then that progressed into me writing songs. I had this little Casio keyboard which I would like play and beat music and have like some rap battles with my sisters and stuff, and then I was just writing like some funny raps, and then just in the last, I've always been consistently songwriting, and then in the last few years I've been releasing music under my name and stuff professionally, so I've been enjoying it.
I'm hooked on the name business, and feel free, and our guest Angela, feel free to jump in at any time, but I'm hooked on the name business. Is there any real meaning or anything behind Dena Anuksa?
Yeah, so Dena is my first name, and then Anuksa is short for Anesu Mtowa, which is an ancient queen from Egypt. So my parents are Egyptian, so I do have a lot of, I like to use a lot of ancient Egyptian symbolism, and Anesu Mtowa was known as the lost queen of Egypt. So.
Right. Interesting.
I'm bringing it
Glad I
back.
asked.
Yeah.
And so, right on to you, FaithChild. In my mind, I'm going to have to say, I just see the name as obviously being maybe a child of faith, but does your parents really have anything to do with that? In my mind, I think of it, you grew up in a house of faith, did you?
I did, but I'm going to give you like the podcast-friendly version.
That's okay.
So when my parents were when my mom was pregnant with me, I was a mistake. That kind of happens,
boy.
right? So
No one's ever a mistake.
No. I'm gonna redeem it. Don't worry. So my mom went to get rid of the little man inside her stomach.
Oh.
So as she was like in the clinic, God spoke to her for the first time. Was like, "Don't abort the baby." And she's like, "I'm a single mom, poverty, domestic violence, 4 kids. How can I cope?" And God said, "Believe, have faith in me, and I'll show myself to be God." So I was a faith child.
Wow.
So I use my name to inspire people, like you might be a mistake, like I was a mistake, but God never makes mistakes, So that's just who I am, that's my name, and I love it. I actually had chosen a name prior to knowing my birth story, and I'm a pastor's kid. So most pastor's kids, you kind of hear your life like in the sermon. And it's like, I never did that. Like, quite often, like, they'll exaggerate the story that I never did that. So I remember mum was like, my son, whatever, was going to abort him. I was like, timeline
You
doesn't
heard it for
add
the
up.
first time in
This timeline doesn't add up. It can't be my other brother. It must be me. Then I realized, oh my God, it's actually me. But people ask me, oh, did you ever feel like, sad? And I was like, I didn't feel sad. I felt like joyed that God wanted me to come despite. My mum had a coil in her as well, which means the stork can't bring the egg.
Yeah.
So I still came through like a survivor. So, yeah.
I'm glad you've told us the story. I'm glad I asked. And then, so if you're listening for the first time and you don't know who FaithChild is, which I think you probably should know, you would have gathered that he is a gospel rapper. And so we're going to ask FaithChild to tell us a bit more, maybe how his musical journey began as well.
Yeah, so being born and raised in the church, or rather the church I am in, we're a youth church for young people. So everything that young people like, music, poetry, drama, we tap into that. So my siblings, Angela's actually
Hey,
my sister,
I was about to reveal that.
So she's the little bro. Yeah,
The little big bro.
yeah, so she's the eldest, I'm the youngest. But she's basically my mother, but yeah. So my siblings started a music group, which Angela managed, but I was too young to be in a group. So we started our younger group, and then when that group, they're called Open Gate Crew, when they went on tour, the younger group, we were like support acts for them. So that's how we kind of got into it. So that's how I did my first support tour when I was age 10. Yeah, so super young. That's how I got into it. So, and then word of mouth kind of spread. So like from like churches to now like youth clubs, then schools, colleges, pubs, clubs, arenas, and now 27 countries and counting.
Wow.
So,
And to be fair, I'm sitting here just in awe, and I'm thinking, you're double blessed, man. You were born in a home that was musical, and a home that had, faith at the center of everything that they did.
Yeah.
And really, I'm just really inspired already. So what we're going to really talk about here is how you feel, both of you feel, that your craft or your music inspire or empower people. And I'm going to leave it open, Dena, for you.
Yeah, so I like to write about socially conscious topics, as well as writing about, fun and relatable material. This year I've really had time and space to connect with myself a lot more and just do a lot of self-discovery and put a lot more intention into my work, which is what I aim to be doing with my upcoming releases. So I hope that, some people can listen and really relate to what I'm saying and feel the emotion that I felt when I was writing the song.
And then we talking about music, but tell us a bit about Girl Code. Sorry,
Yeah, I was just about to ask that actually, because you've got the group, right? And tell us about that collective.
Yeah, so I moved back here in 2018 and I signed with my management Next Gen Music Group, and they've always been there for me. And at the same time, I felt like I was lacking having some females around me who are doing the same thing, because there's not really many artists doing hip hop to begin with, let alone female rappers based in Belfast. So Girl Code, yes, that was started about over a year ago now, and it's originally founded in Dublin, and we're based now as well in Belfast. It was founded by DJ Mona Lisa, so I went down to Dublin to DJ an event with them, and me and Mona Lisa clicked, and launched the Belfast branch now, it's basically a collective bringing together females in the creative industry, and
not just music, just
it's all arts.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've
Really?
got skateboarders, painters, tattooists, DJs, rappers, singers, everything. So it's really nice, and the main aim is really just to collaborate with each other and uplift each other and exchange skills and services.
Way to go, Girl Code. And so, FaithChild, I know you could tell us a whole story, but podcast limited version.
So I think one of the preconceptions about, I guess, gospel rap is that it's like Jesus in your face, this and that. But I think gospel rap really is just life with just like a Christian lens on what you're going through. So I think whether you're Christian or you're not, you go through life, you go through insecurities, you go through depression, you go to everything that every normal person goes through. But I think your lens and your outlook and your solution rather will be slightly tailored to more of a positive, optimistic thing. So I've had numerous people say, I know a woman that had a miscarriage, and I have a song called Just Pose on my first album, which is about feeling comfortable in your skin with your looks. And she said that when she heard that song, she had the strength to go back to work.
Wow.
But that song doesn't do anything about miscarriages or anything like that.
Yeah.
So when your song is even able to go beyond what it's meant to be, it's a blessing. I got another song called Tunnel Vision, which is about being focused on your dreams and goals. And a young girl that's been self-harming said that every time I want to self-harm, I listen to your song and I don't self-harm. And there's nothing about self-harm in that song, but somehow it connects. So when your music is able to go beyond what the lyrics are even saying, it's a humbling experience, and definitely something that keeps me going when I myself am discouraged from whatever I'm facing in life.
Yeah. It is my go-to place, though I have to admit. I'm a person stick headphones in when I'm at my lowest point. So really I appreciate music in that capacity. I'm not a singer, but I really do appreciate music in that way. And so we're going to sort of get wrapping up, because I know you've got to go. He's only joined us very briefly today and he's got to go. But listen, I just want to zero in very quickly on what is the real message you want people, either of you, to take away, whether young people here in Northern Ireland, and FaithChild, I know you're based in England, your Northern Ireland connection, I am sure, is through Angela. But what is the message, the real message?
My message is always love, faith and hope, stuff that I've found in God. And my thing is never to force anyone to believe what I believe. My job is just to share my experience. I think word of mouth and personal testimonies is the best thing. Ultimately, I just want to make clean, positive music. I think the media and their airwaves are polluted with a lot of stuff. It contradicts our morals deep down. We might enjoy it, but deep down it contradicts our morals.
Yeah.
And I think it's good. We all have a bit of righteousness and ratchetness within us,
Yeah.
So you like those wild songs, but at the same time you like those clean songs.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I think so. If I can be the guy that gives you the clean stuff, then I've done my job.
Let me ask you a question though, because you straddle in some ways, right?
Yeah.
So you're clear that this is your genre, it's inspirational, it's gospel, it's all of that, but you cross over in certain ways in that you find yourself in settings that you wouldn't call Christians many times, right?
Yeah.
So you find yourself in schools and all sorts of places, right? Just tell me about, for you, how do you balance? How do you find that? Do you find it challenging? And how do you stride where you remain true to yourself, but you're still able to connect to somebody who doesn't believe what you believe, for example?
Yeah, I find it a piece of cake, because I'm just being me. And I think once you're so comfortable in yourself, you don't have to put it on or fake. Mm-hmm. Also, when you know what you're there to do and you're committed to that, you won't waver. So I can be in a club in VIP and what am I drinking? I'm having, can I get Coke? Just around, no, just Coke. I'm fine. I don't drink. I'm not in a judgy way. I just wasn't brought up around alcohol. But my thing is, I enjoy being the only Christian in the room. And if I could just be my authentic self and just be a human, as opposed to being quite often you see the narrative of Christians being judgmental. Don't do this, don't do that. But I think if we just come from a Jesus angle, a lot of Christians we see in the forefront aren't like Christ. I want to be like Christ, not like Christians. Because quite often there's a difference between the two. Jesus is very loving, he used different parables and stories of him hanging out with all his disciples.
Woman at the well.
Woman at the well.
The Bible.
Yeah. And she people call her promiscuous, but she might not be, but she had 5 husbands. The woman caught in the act of adultery. Yeah. His disciples were defrauders and tax collectors, But whilst he was with them, he wasn't acting like them. He was able to pour into their lives. And I thought, if I can pour into the life of these people, Jesus came for their sick. He came for people who aren't well put together. Yeah. And if I can just show you that I'm just like you, the only difference is that I've just put my hope and reliance in this person. That's the only thing between me and atheist and Muslim and agnostic person. The only difference is that I just got my faith in Jesus. That's different. I struggle with every single thing you go through. I just have I just go somewhere else for my solution.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Dena, can I ask you, because from your angle, you are a female rapper, DJ. I don't think we got that out. You're a DJ too, right? For you, what is most challenging about the music industry?
I think it is hard to not have that community of women around me sometimes who are also doing the same music genre. There is a community of women who are doing different music genres, but sometimes it's hard to, just like bounce off ideas and get advice from women doing the same thing as me. So I hope that, there's girls watching what I do and feeling inspired. And I think one of the big issues with Northern Ireland is that people sometimes feel scared to be different and to, just express themselves. So I think, authenticity is really something that I want to inspire people to be, and just, feel confident and just surround themselves with good energy.
Right. Well done. And honestly, Dena, we do wish you all the best. We'll be supporting you. We'll be watching this space. and really, we're coming to the end of our podcast, and I want to really thank today's guests for being here. But before we say goodbye, I want to just ask you guys, because this is really all about you today and our listening audience, what is, if any, final thoughts that you want to share?
Ladies first?
Final thoughts? Just remember to breathe. Take some time for yourself. Don't feel scared to be your true, authentic, beautiful self.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think I would second that. I think my final thoughts or final words would be embrace life to the fullest. Embrace life with the fullest, with the highs and the lows. And I think the best way to understand any gadget or device you have is to read the manual. And I feel like for me, a lot of us kind of know the notion of God creating the world in 6 days or whatever. And for me, I can only speak from my own personal experiences. I've been through difficult situations, but I've always found solace, direction, and comfort in the Bible. And a lot of people, quite often, the only narrative you hear of the Bible might be like, don't sleep around, don't get drunk, don't have wild parties, which might necessarily be true or not. But I think what you don't see is the wisdom, multiple streams of income, conflict resolution, how to handle business, all the things that are within that manual, aka the Bible. And I think I can only point someone to what works for me, never to shove it down anyone's mouth, but that works for me. I'll be an evil person not to show your work to me, man. So this is my story and my truth.
Amazing. Thank you. Now, guys, thank you out there so much for watching. I hope that you found this episode of our podcast empowering, as that was today's intention. We wanted to give you an episode clearly with a message of empowerment. And if you are going to be searching for us on our social media handles, it would be at UKUnMute on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. And with that, we will say goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.